Okay, I know people are still coming in, but I wanted to say good morning and welcome. And we've got a really full program today, so we're going to get started right on time. I'm Jara Kern with M. Harris and Kern, and we work with MxD, Manufacturing Times Digital, on the Cybersecure program. That's why we're here today. And thank you all for being with us. I'm really excited about what promises to be an interactive experience today to build your knowledge and skills around incident response. We never know when something's going to strike our factory floor or come into our day. And so it's great to have these opportunities to practice here together and to learn from an expert. Today's program is part of MxD's Cybersecure Supplier Program. This program helps manufacturers strengthen their supply chains through expert content and communications. So this webinar falls right into that category of expert content. It's in partnership with Immersive, which is a UK-based company that offers hands-on cybersecurity training, crisis simulations, and cyber drills for organizations. And Jen Szkatulski will be our guide today. Jen is Immersive's lead cyber resilience advisor. She has over 2 decades of experience in cybersecurity and in crisis response. And her approach combines both offensive and defensive strategies with deep knowledge of human behavior. Before I turn things over to Jen, here are a few notes on housekeeping and what to expect today. Jen has shared a link in the chat, and if you need it again, we'll put it in as well, to the software and to how we're going to get started actually using the simulations to learn today. We will have several interactive periods that she will guide us through. Each one will be followed by voting and engagement, which will take place in the chat. I'm sure that you're also going to have questions along the way, maybe that apply more broadly to everybody or that are more general. Those, we're going to have time for those in a Q&A at the end, but feel free when those occur to you to put those questions in the chat, preceded by either the word question or a Q, so that I can pull them for our discussion at the end. Jen and I will be in conversation on Q&A before we wrap today. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to you, Jen, to take us through today's simulation. Thank you so much for being here.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. As I share my screen, I want to say good morning to you too, Antonio. I'm also from Southeast Michigan, so happy to see a fellow Southeast Michigander here. I'm screen here, and you'll see a QR code. You can scan that, but again, I've put the link in the chat. So if you could go to that link, whether you're going through the QR code or the link, enter the code there. I promise it's not malware. I know we're talking about security, but it is a link that we want you to click on. And if you want to use the QR code, please feel safe in doing so. I'm about to start the exercise, so that means the QR code will go away, but if you haven't completed joining yet, don't worry. That link and the code will always be at the bottom of the screen. You can see that right here where it says join at and the code, and it is in chat. So thank you for that introduction and that setup. I just want you to know, so today this is going to be interactive, and though you won't be coming off mute, we won't have exchange in verbal conversation. I do want you to know that using the chat feature and using the platform that you're logging into is really going to drive the conversation that we have today. I want to emphasize that anything that you enter in the platform is anonymous. So any decision you make is not tied to your name. And I want you to really just be bold, be brave, and really think what your response would be. Because we only have an hour together today, I'm going to be asking you to make some pretty hard decisions, and I'm not going to be giving you a whole lot of time to make some of those decisions. When I do that, breathe. Know again that your answers are anonymous, but also that sometimes in a crisis, we have to make decisions faster than we want to, because when that clock is ticking, that can mean that an attacker is getting more of a foothold in your system or more damage is occurring. So some ground rules for today. You're going to go through a crisis, spoiler alert, but I want you to really put you in the mindset that this is not a test. This is really intended just to provide a safe space for collaboration. It's a simulated disruption event, simulated crisis, not a real one. If you actually hear sirens or see smoke in your location, not part of the exercise, we did not plan that. Please get yourself to safety. Our goals really are to provide that safe space so we can strengthen readiness to respond and really to elicit feedback and suggestions for improved crisis response. What you have to share is going to be really important for others as well. Everyone has their own insight into how they respond to a crisis and how they respond to an incident that unfolds. So please feel free to share. Again, this is not a test, not a pass-fail exercise. Suspend your disbelief of the scenario events as much as possible. We've created this to be designed to be a little bit generic, so it may not quite apply to your organization. Just imagine that you are in an environment where these things happen, and if you ever want to debate about how an attack can occur, I am always available to talk about cybersecurity offense and defense. And expect that we're not going to have all the answers today as we go along. All right, so I'm going to ask you the first question. This is going to require you to log into the system and answer here. Before I do that, though, on your right-hand side here, you have something called a live feed. You'll see email, chat, news, social media. I want to tell you, if that is distracting for you, you don't have to look at that. For this exercise, I'm going to be delivering all the information you need to answer the questions that you have. Those can provide supplemental information, but they're not necessary. So if you want to just listen to me, feel free. But feel free, as in a real crisis, you're going to be inundated with email. You're going to be having people message you. So that adds to kind of a little bit of the heat that we turn on today. All right, so now I want to ask you a question, and this is just to get a sense of how comfortable you are in responding to a crisis. We're going to talk about a crisis response team, and I want to say for this exercise, this is lowercase crisis response team, not the official crisis response team. So you're going to be operating as a crisis response team. In this question that I'm going to ask you, how confident are you in your role as part of a crisis response team? What I mean by that is that in a real world event, we're all first responders. A cyber crisis is not strictly an IT or cybersecurity issue. It really involves the whole of the business coming together to respond to that. So when answering this question, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to voting. I want you to kind of think of, in a crisis, if you are pulled into it based on your role, how comfortable are you? Do you fully understand your role and responsibilities when responding to a crisis? Or you may be unsure of what's expected to you, but maybe you want to learn more to increase that confidence. Or maybe you're somewhat experienced as part of a crisis response, but you don't really fully understand your role and responsibilities. All of these are great answers. I want to point out that in this exercise going forward as well, if you have an answer that doesn't align with any of the choices you're given, please feel free to use the chat to add that. And if you want to say why you've chosen something or you didn't choose something, please enter that in the chat as well. If you have a question, mark that with a Q and then your question, and that way we'll be able to curate those. All right. I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds of me not talking so you can think as you add in your responses, and then we'll move on. 3, 2, 1. All right. If you still have a response to get in, go ahead. If you haven't gotten your response in, don't worry. Like I said, we're going to move pretty quickly through these. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the responses. just to get a sense of how everyone is feeling. And it looks like we have a nice split here of some people fully understand their role and responsibilities when responding to a crisis. That's amazing, 50%. I imagine some of you are capital crisis response team members to fully understand that. Some are somewhat experienced and some are unsure. Again, there are no wrong answers here. This is just to get a sense of how you're feeling. Hopefully we can increase that score as we go along. But if at the end you feel you're less confident, that's okay too. Sometimes going through a crisis response opens our eyes to things that we may not know. So I want you to know, as you go through this, you're going to have more experience. So I'm going to go and kind of go in the middle here. I'm unsure of what is expected to me because if we have any member of the team that's unsure, we want to make sure that we all get to a level where we are feeling more confident. What you'll see here is operational stability and reputation. Right now, our organization, we're all working together in a fictitious organization. We're steady with that. We're going to see if that changes as the crisis continues. All right, I'm going to start now with some information I have for all of you, and that is that we've got some production line disruptions. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you so you can hear this. If for any reason you can't hear it, let me know, and we will make sure that we deliver that information.
Morning, we've got a major situation down here on line 3.
What's going on?
The line's gone haywire. The robots are acting up. Sensors are giving false readings, and we're seeing a ton of defects. We've tried rebooting and swapping out parts, but nothing's working.
How bad is it? Are we talking about a minor glitch or a full-blown shutdown?
It's bad. We're at a near standstill. The workers are getting frustrated, and we're falling way behind schedule. That big order's due at the end of the week, and we're not going to make it at this rate.
All right, I'm on my way down.
All right, so the gist of that is production line 3 is having some trouble. We've got a big order we're not going to be able to fulfill. This is really going to be disruptive to our business. So as we think of this, I want you to think of what is your main priority now. I'm opening up voting and I'm going to go over our options here. But again, if you have another one, please feel free to enter that in the chat. And if you want to say why you've chosen one or why you've not, please enter that in the chat as well. So our choices here with this, what is our priority? Should we intensify our troubleshooting? Should we increase engineering efforts to really look and try to find and fix the technical issues? Or maybe we want to go to manual workarounds, temporarily switch to our manual processes. We want to maintain production despite quality and efficiency concerns. Or do we want to shift production? Attempt to move production of the affected product to other less utilized lines. Might take some effort, but maybe that's the way we want to go. Or do we maybe want to communicate with the customer? We have that big order that we're not going to be able to fulfill in time. We don't believe we're going to be able to. Do we want to inform the customer of the potential delays and explore alternative solutions? I'm going to go ahead and give you, again, a short amount of time to think about this. Do you want to intensify troubleshooting, implement manual workarounds, shift production, or communicate with the customer? I'll give you about 12 more seconds. Three, two, one. I lied. Let's see if we can get 5 more votes in. If you can get that in, again, this is anonymous, not tied to your name. No wrong answers. I know you'll want to think about this in greater detail in a real crisis. Let's see what our gut instinct is here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reveal responses. Okay, it looks like we are split again, which makes sense. 50% say, let's look into this, let's identify and fix the technical issues. And then shift production is second, very slightly above maybe communicating with the customer, and some implement manual workarounds. Understanding that your business, one of these might be your priority where another business might have a different priority is really important too. This is where knowing what that is in advance can be really beneficial. So if you can enter in the chat, would someone like to share why they think one of these might be the best option or why one is not optimal? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or again, if you have any questions, adding a Q in front of it and then asking the question. And while we're waiting for those, you may see that we have some email. Line 3 is malfunctioning. Dashboard says it's okay, but it looks like it's not okay. So the dashboard, this is interesting, says it's okay, but the systems are acting up. So hardware shows it's green, but they're at a dead stop. Does that change your mind in any way? See if we have any other critical email. Printer maintenance. That can be critical if we have a printer that we need to use, but probably just a little bit of noise there. Do we have anything in the chat from any of the participants?
Yes, we do. We have a couple of things in
Excellent.
the chat. So one says, I'd like to choose 2 options, one assigned to each member of the team. Another, option 1 seems the best with the given information. The techs working on Xerox copiers shouldn't affect the performance off the machines. And then the customer relationship determines how everything goes. I want to keep production moving while continuing to troubleshoot. And then choose manual workarounds because we don't know the extent of the damage. Explore shifting production and troubleshooting while working in manual workarounds. Communication is not necessary yet because we don't know what the slowdown is yet. And then 2 more comments. Would like to determine root cause of the problem as soon as possible. And then the objective is to meet the customer required ship date, moving production to unused capacity.
All very good points. Thank you for sharing all of that. I love that. One thing someone pointed out that I think is really important is I'd like to do 2 of these things. And absolutely, we don't work in silos where we can only do one thing at a time. And sometimes we will do all of the things or 2 of the things or multiple elements. As a crisis progresses, it becomes more and more difficult to do the things that we want to do. And sometimes we're forced to decide what is the top thing because we are running out of resources, we are running out of time, and sometimes we're forced to choose what's the best option. Sometimes we're forced to choose what is the best option when there are no good options. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to intensify that troubleshooting based on that. We're probably going to implement some manual workarounds or maybe investigate whether that's necessary at this time. We'll look into shifting production, at least aligning the process in case we need to do that. And maybe we won't communicate with the customer just yet, but maybe they are our priority. Maybe we'll start looking at what we would tell them, what we know, and start getting that together. The key point here is that we're starting motion on all of the things that we need to do while we're intensifying that troubleshooting. Documentation can really help us with that decision too. All right, so unfortunately, our product line disruptions, we're losing capacity, but that makes sense. We have a line disruption. So we're going to go ahead and see what's next. Oh, dear. Okay. So we have a critical system outage now. So we're speeding along 4 hours into the workday. It gets worse. Now our ERP system, the company's enterprise resource planning system, this is the backbone of our manufacturing operations. It's now inaccessible. This means that we are not able to function. Inventory management, order processing, financial reporting, they're all grinding to a halt. The IT team is looking to diagnose the issue, but initial reports suggest it's a potential server malfunction. We don't have an ETA, an estimated time of resolution yet, and it's spreading. So this is definitely exacerbating the issue. How should we respond to this? Do we want to implement those manual workarounds now that we've been looking into, or including ERP manual workarounds maybe? Or do we want to communicate and reassure? So now inform the affected departments and stakeholders about the outage. Now we have to maybe consider informing our employees, our internal stakeholders. Or do we want to isolate and investigate? Isolate that ERP system. We don't know if it's due to an attack or anything, but maybe we want to assume breach here and maybe kind of prevent data breaches, isolate that. Or do we want to escalate this to the CMT? The CMT being the crisis management team, capital letters. Maybe brief them on the system outage, emphasizing how critical it is and the potential impact. So I'm going to be very mean here and give you 10 more seconds. I know you want to think about it. By the way, I lie when I say 10 more seconds. I'm usually giving you 15 to get those both in. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see if we can get a few more votes. We got 21 in the last one. Do I get 22? I feel like an auctioneer. 22, 23. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reveal responses. And let's see what we think the best option is here. And it makes sense that we're split on this because this might be one of the things where we do all of the things. Looks like escalate to CMT is our top, but not by that much. It looks like we want to do all of these. Please feel free to enter into the chat your reasoning behind why one might be better than the others or why one is not optimal. And feel free to interrupt me if anything comes in the chat. And I'm curious if communicate and reassure, if anyone voted about that, if you'd be willing to share, do you have templates or holding statements, even internally, for situations like this where you can share that quickly? Or maybe something that you can share with customers that, because we don't know what's happening, that's kind of a holding statement. Anything in chat?
Not yet.
Okay, and these questions are going to get harder.
We have our first. We have our first.
Perfect. Yay. Let's hear.
The ERP is the backbone of the facility. If there's a possible breach, I want that isolated as soon as possible. At that point, I would communicate and reassure as well as start to implement manual workarounds.
Brilliant. I am curious, and you don't, if you can answer this in chat, that would be great. I'm curious how easy it would be for someone to know if this was related to a cyber event or if it was just, it's Tuesday. Sometimes systems are interrupted, maybe not to this extent, but is there a threshold? Do you have documentation maybe with threshold when you believe, okay, this might be an issue that needs to go to the CMT, it might be a cyber issue? And I'm going to ask another question because I think this one is important. And this is a hard one. How does your organization connect the dots of things that happen on the IT side or the network side with something that may be cyber? Are all incidents escalated to a central source or someone or some group of people that can kind of identify this is going on over here, this is going on over here? It might be related. Sometimes that's the CMT. I just asked you a lot of questions, but I'd love to hear if there are any responses to any of those.
And while you're thinking about that, thinking about the questions that Jen asked, we've got some other comments in the chat. We need to alert the entire crisis management team so that everyone can get involved. This event is now big enough that it will require an army to solve. Absolutely. And then ERP is down anyway. With the other events happening, I suspect that there's some sort of ongoing threat. And then a follow on to that, absolutely, that's why we need to convene the A team. that crisis management team.
I love that. Yes, I think convening the CMT is a good way to go. Feel free to answer all of the other questions in the chat, because that's a theme that is going to carry us on through this crisis that we're going through. I'm going to move on right now, but that doesn't mean we're not going to revisit these conversations. So please feel free, if you have more to say, go ahead and add it to the chat. So we have operational disruption here. We've got our capacity to operate. We've got our internal reputation and external reputation dropping. So we have an incident report here, and the incident report, we're moving along to the next day now. This is from the facility security team, and they were looking at logs that were flagged as a potential security breach. And it looks like an employee badge has been used to access restricted areas of the facility multiple times outside of working hours. The badge belongs to a senior engineer who's currently on annual leave. They've been on annual leave for about 10 days, and they've not actually gotten authorization to use their badge or to return. So we don't have any requests for that. Two alarming possibilities here. It's either an unauthorized return, that senior engineer came back and was not authorized, or there might be a badge compromise here with that senior engineer. Either way, the implications are pretty severe. We have to now consider data security, intellectual property theft, potential sabotage. We don't know if it's an insider or we don't know. We have to kind of look, but we have to act quickly here. So with that, should we just immediately suspend the employee? Take action here, suspend their access card, inform them of the investigation into the authorized access. So here we're assuming it's insider. Suspend the badge, call them up, say, hey, what's going on? Or do we discreetly investigate, maybe conduct a discreet investigation, review security camera footage, interview colleagues who might have seen something suspicious, increase surveillance in restricted areas? Or we've already engaged the CMT, the crisis management team. Maybe we bring this possible security breach to their attention for further guidance. Or do we confront the employee maybe when they return? Maybe it's, let's wait for them to come back and from leave. We don't want to bother them when they're on leave, and let's arrange a meeting to discuss it when they get back. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds of me not talking so you can think, and then we'll see where we are. 3, 2, 1. And I said 10 seconds of me not talking, and then I started counting at 4. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reveal responses. Oh, I see some still coming in. I'll give you another few seconds. This is a very condensed exercise because we want you to feel a little bit of the pressure. Obviously, a real attack is not going to happen within, well, maybe it could happen within 45 minutes, and you do have to make decisions quickly. But I think you've landed on the right thing here. We really do need to bring this to the CMT, maybe expand our coordination with other teams within the CMT. Now, we're talking about the CMT and communicating with them, and there is a lot to unravel there about how we're communicating with them, who was involved with the CMT, how broadly we're broadening the investigation. But that is something that we can talk about in the future as well. I would like you to consider it, though. How are you engaging them? Who are you talking to? Are you using out-of-band encrypted communications, or are you using your primary communications? Maybe it's Teams. Think about that. If it's a potential breach, is that something that would trigger that out-of-band communications? And does that capability exist? Suspend the employee. I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume something, but I think a lot of people might vote for this because suspending the employee's badge itself is important right here. Stop the bleed. Maybe not suspending the employer, calling them, or informing them of the investigation. So if you voted for that and you struggled with that, I do think that suspending the employee's badge might be a good idea as well. Also, depending on documentation and the CMC, and discreetly investigate. I think those all work together. Anything in chat that we should cover? Any themes there?
Not yet. Most of it is still related to the ERP consideration from the prior exercise, prior stage.
Can you kind of share what the common theme of that was? I'm very curious.
And we've got it. So we have a couple of new comments. So previously isolated the ERP to attempt to limit damages. More incoming evidence leads to the conclusion more and more that there's an ongoing threat and you need to involve more resources. And then here we also have definitely suspend the employee's badge just after we brought this to the attention of the CMT. So sort of a parallel scenario, let's elevate and then let's suspend that badge to, as you say, stop the bleed. And then you must both suspend the badge and escalate to CMT at the same time. So doing both, another response of a simultaneous action. I noticed there are two badges being used. One is Ross's badge, he's on leave. The other is Marcus Thorne's badge, who's on vacation. Maybe there's two badges compromised. So it could be a bigger containment issue. As in these situations, we cannot be too safe with our choices. If our incident response process means we must revoke access upon suspicion until confirmed otherwise, that's an option. Hate to toss this in late, but what does your incident response playbook direct?
Ooh, I love that. So documentation, I'm a big fan of documentation. I'm also a big fan of empowerment and practicing your incident response plan. So people aren't, oh, where's our incident response plan? How do we access it? When was it updated? So what is in your response plan? How well it is part of your working muscle memory is important here too. I'm not sure if I'm answering or responding to what that last comment was specifically, but we'll have Q&A if we want to clarify that. So documentation can help us decide here. I agree with everything everyone said about how we handle this. Also empowerment. This is a really important thing. If we are afraid to act or don't have access to the documentation quickly, that can be damaging too. So I know I'm kind of making this act quickly, but also look at your documentation. But it really does depend on how well your documentation is and how empowered you are to make those decisions. I'm going to go ahead and move on to escalating this to crisis management. So, things are starting to stabilize a little bit with our operational stability and the fact that they're not getting worse. And our reputation isn't getting much worse either. Unfortunately, they're still very low, but we may have an opportunity to raise those. Sometimes we can do our very best, make all the right decisions, and it still does not result in an increase in things right away. I'm going to go ahead and share this. I'm going to summarize this call for you. So you are starting your morning coffee. You received this urgent call. There has been a suspicious device detected on the floor. It's called a Wi-Fi pineapple. Not familiar with what a Wi-Fi pineapple is. I'm going to tell you how it's being used here. This is a device that is commonly used to attack networks either ethically or unethically. And this one was used to mimic the company's Wi-Fi network. The logs on this indicate that it switched to cellular connection though. So once it had access, it switched to cellular, and this makes it really difficult to track its activity. So the implications here are, this could be a potential data breach. We have mounting evidence with that. This could be an ongoing threat. They might still, if this is an attacker, they might still have access to the company's network, and they could cause further damage. And this also has an impact of reputational damage. This incident could attract media attention and negative publicity. So we really want to respond to this in a way that has those implications in mind. Now I'm going to give you 3 choices here, but if you have others, feel free to add them to the chat. Do we want to isolate that device and secure the area? Do we want to call emergency services and evacuate the building? Now we've got personnel in this building. This is a suspicious device. It's a Wi-Fi pineapple. may or may not know what its capabilities are. We know it's really responding as a cell device, cell phone service? Or do we discreetly monitor it? Leave it in place. That way we can kind of gather intel on what's happening. We can surveil it, see who's interacting with it. Then we have more information. For some, this may be an easy answer. For some, this may be difficult. And for some, this might be kind of do all of the things. I want you to also think about this and how you would act knowing that the production line is down. ERP is still down. We still have a lot of issues at the same time. So I want you to think about how important this is in relation to maybe getting production back online as well. And if you have any thoughts on that, please feel free to add the chat. I think we landed on mostly isolating the device and securing the area first. We may then also call emergency services or discreetly monitor it. But once we isolate it, we can't monitor it after that. We can monitor maybe who's trying. There are things we can do, but we are limited. Anything in the chat related to anything we talked about here that we?
More just a meta comment. Oh, baby, it looks like we've been hacked. Insider issue.
Insider,
Definitely a
yeah.
bad week at work is what this is rolling out to be.
This is a really bad week at work. And I would love if in the chat you could say whether this has reached crisis level for you or not. I think in most environments this would be a crisis, but there are some where they'd be, no, this isn't yet a crisis. I'd be curious, say yes or no if this is a crisis for you, if this happened at work. Definitely a bad day. Insider threat. We may not know if this is an insider threat or not. There are many possibilities as to how someone could have accessed a badge or gotten access to a legitimate badge, entered the premises, maybe a vendor entered the premises. Maybe these are related, maybe they're not.
It could be theft made to look like insider, right? As there's an email in the system that from Marcus, the senior engineer, who says, I'm 5 hours away. My extra badge was in the locker room. Don't tell me it was stolen. So Dan says it's a crisis. Lots of indicators that this could be a really sophisticated attack.
Yeah, I agree. I would say this is a crisis. It also helps not to harp on documentation. If you have documentation that defines what a crisis is in your environment, what that threshold is, because if you know it's reached that threshold, well, then now we go into our crisis management plan and we know how to respond to that. And if it's like, I don't know if it's a crisis, that can delay our response too. But I agree. I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to isolate the device and secure the area. And things are still not great. It is a bad day. Let's talk about that operational impact. I'm going to go ahead and open up the voting while I tell you what's happening, so you can think about that at the same time. So production disruptions are continuing to ripple through the company. It's impacting the bottom line, obviously, and our reputation and our relationship with key stakeholders. You are facing mounting pressure from all sides. On production lines, you've got multiple lines that are now experiencing intermittent malfunctions. There are significant delays, control issues. We're missing target production timelines, and back orders are growing. Customers are our primary concern here. Maybe they're becoming increasingly frustrated. These delays are really affecting them and their product line. So, we're all part of a supply chain, right? We consume software or products to create what we're creating, and we deliver that to another entity that is also reliant upon us to deliver for them. So we are disrupting their supply chain as well. So they are looking at alternative suppliers and canceling orders. They're threatening to cancel orders. And our suppliers are struggling to keep up with fluctuating production schedules. So again, supply chain disruptions and increased costs. And our employees, we can't forget about that as well, Our workers are feeling the strain of these disruptions, and there's concern about job security and the company's future adding to the stress. So our options here are, what is our focus? Do we focus on our contingency planning and reallocating resources, develop detailed contingency plans to mitigate the impact of ongoing disruptions? This could include looking at alternative manufacturing facilities, exploring outsourcing options, or maybe reallocating resources to critical production lines. Or do we want to focus on supply chain management and communication? Engage in open and transparent communication with key suppliers, informing them of the situation and exploring options for collaboration and flexibility. So maybe really looking at if we have holding templates, if we have communication templates, maybe working with our PR legal team to really be transparent with what we know right now, which is not everything. Or do we want to focus on customer relationship management, prioritize our communication with key customers, giving them regular updates about the situation, offering solutions to address their concerns and minimize the disruption? Or finally, maybe do we want to focus on operational efficiency and optimization? Look at a thorough review of production processes, identify areas for improvement and optimization, really looking at how we can increase efficiency and reduce the impact of future disruptions. So looking forward a bit. We're in a bad place now. We don't want to be there again. I'll give you about 5 more seconds. Anyone else? I know I told you the questions would get harder and harder. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reveal responses. I know you want more time, and I know that these are not the only options. Please feel free to use the chat. We are split pretty evenly, contingency planning and reallocating resources, and then focusing on customer relationship management, but also thinking ahead with, okay, operational efficiency and optimization. I am glad that there's some votes for that last one, because I think it's really important as you go through a crisis to have a scribe or someone reporting things as you go along. In fact, everyone should be taking notes as they go through a crisis, if they can, to say, this is where I couldn't find this, or this is an area of friction, or we don't have an out-of-band encrypted communication mechanism. Writing those down, reporting on those as you go, helps you do that after-action report and look at efficiency later. Any comments in chat that we want to explore?
Yes. So we've got something that can be for our Q&A. So I'm going to go on to comments about this specific situation. This is another situation where multiple options apply. I would communicate with suppliers and customers while working on contingency plans.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's recommended to have communication plans in place as templates for the most common scenarios. So that's about being prepared with your communication.
Lovely, lovely, absolutely. This is one where we do want to do a lot of things. And what we have in place ahead of time can make that more possible. If we don't have those communication templates, it's a lot harder. I'm going to go with the majority here. We're going to see the impact of that. Hey, look at that. Our reputation is rising because we're communicating and we're looking at, we're shifting, reallocating resources. So our reputation is rising. Our operational stability is also rising. So that is fantastic. All right, I have an update for you. The crisis management team has convened for another emergency meeting. The atmosphere is heavy with the gravity of the situation. Again, not a good time for the business. So the head of IT reports the following. There's evidence of espionage. We've done forensic analysis of that Wi-Fi pineapple. It reveals that it was likely used to capture large amounts of network traffic. The data stored on that device can't be accessed, so we can't really know what it's taken, but it suggests it could contain sensitive company information like blueprints, manufacturing processes, financial records, investment plans, internal communications, and meeting records or recordings, including possibly meetings about our response. We don't know. We have potential suspects. As you mentioned, maybe a disgruntled employee, maybe an insider, but it could also be maybe an external maintenance team or someone's badge that was stolen. If we have two, maybe it was a maintenance team or some outside entity. We're uncertain at this point. We're uncertain of the timeline. We're uncertain of if what data was exfiltrated. And we are uncertain of exactly who the perpetrator is. We do know the impact, though. This we are pretty certain of. Worst case scenario, highly sensitive company secrets, unique selling propositions are out there. Personal data of staff and customers might have been stolen. And this could lead to financial losses, reputational damage, and legal liabilities. All bad things. So we have more to do, some more more investigation to do, but I want to shift. This is one of the last things I'm going to ask you now to help us recover at least a little bit from this phase of a crisis. We want to focus on communication, and the CMT is taking proactive steps, and they're asking for your guidance on what they should, how they should address the public. They're drafting a public statement. What do you advise we should do with that? How should we approach that? Should we take a high-level, stick-to-the-facts approach, issue a brief statement acknowledging the incident, confirming that investigation is underway, minimal details, and don't assign blame or speculation? Or do we explain the current situation and provide no further comment? This is the investigation's ongoing. We will not be providing further comment. Or full transparency, a comprehensive statement detailing the incident, potential data breach, the ongoing investigation, acknowledge our shortcomings. Yeah, we're so sorry for the inconvenience. We should have done X, Y, Z. Or maybe empathy and apologies. Focus on expressing empathy for those affected and offer sincere apologies. Reassure stakeholders that the company is taking all necessary steps to resolve the situation and prevent future occurrences. This is one where maybe we want to do several of the things. Maybe this is one where we really want to rely on maybe external counsel, PR, the communications team, or documentation. I will say, whatever you do, if you are providing an update and you plan to provide additional updates after that, I recommend having a website set up in advance off of your main website using your domain. So like a newsroom, for example. There have been companies that have registered domains during a crisis and say, go to here at this new domain for new information. And that has not gone well for them. Happy to tell stories about that, but I recommend using your main website and a newsroom source for that. All right, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. All right, can we get 1 or 2 more votes in? I know this is one where many people would say, I would want to do something else. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reveal responses. And we are pretty split on this, as I suspected. Again, high level stick to the facts for this might be a really good option. We don't know much right now, so high level. Empathy and apologies are really important. Think about when your data is involved in a breach or some sort of attack. You want someone to understand what that means for you, the impact, even at a business level. But maybe we don't have enough information to provide that yet. I'm going to pause and yeah, anything in the chat?
Yes, so we've got a couple of things. At this point, this is related to where things were before it was time to make a public statement. I'd be shutting everything down. We'd bring in our cybersecurity insurance provider. That would bring in lawyers and technical resources to start looking into root cause. So there's a a path where you're really trying to get at the center of what's happened. And then also it's a time for lawyers for communications with the government, FBI, DISA, DOW, DOE. Refer to contracts and internal policies for communications. CMMC, public company, these can affect the reporting requirements at this stage. And then until I have more information, I'm going to stick to those high level messages with facts.
Excellent. Absolutely. Yeah. Third parties probably might have even brought them in earlier. I didn't provide that option, but yeah, does that include law enforcement? Does that include federal entities? Certainly some regulatory obligations here for many of you. Yeah. If we were not at a crisis before, I think it's safe to say we're probably all in a crisis with an asterisk. There's always an exception to that. Let's show the impact with that. Well, our reputation went down temporarily. Just providing that info can hurt initially, but if we are approaching communications in an adequate manner, that is far better than not approaching it. Not saying something or saying no comment, that's hard to rebound from. So good choices there. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. The crisis isn't yet over, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit and then let you know that the company is addressing the immediate issue. The perpetrator, it's elusive. We don't know the full extent of the damage. But while that investigation continues, we're taking actions to determine our ability to weather this crisis and emerge stronger on the other side. This is part one of an exercise. Part two is where we really deal with the fallout from this exercise. But for now, for this exercise here, we know that we have contained as much as we can, but we don't know what else is out there. We don't know if there are stolen credentials or stolen data. We might have to amplify our dark web monitoring. We have some work to do. I hate leaving you hanging with that, but I do want you to know just being a high level, providing a high level statement has brought your company at least back to people know what's happening and they're not in the dark. So I'm going to ask you again, and then we're going to have Q&A during this. I'm going to ask if you can let me know how your confidence in a crisis is now. I'm going to give you just a few seconds for this. Do you feel you more fully understand your role and responsibilities when responding? Are you still unsure of what is expected, even if you have a little bit more experience going through this exercise? Or no, I have more experience, but I'm less confident. Let me know. Again, there are no wrong answers. And then I'm going to bring us to the Q&A part where you can enter your responses in the platform as well. So I'm going to give this 8 more seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's okay if you're less confident. Go ahead and get those words in. It's okay if you're more confident. It's okay if I was already confident and I don't know enough of what's going on in this scenario. I feel like we're still under attack, but I want you to think of what you might have gained so far. All right, I'm going to reveal responses so to give an opportunity for Q&A and for you to provide your feedback. In the platform here, in the next one, I'm going to, oh, by the way, nice. We got a nice mix there. In the platform, in this next one here, you have one option to vote on. It says, please select this option. What I'd love for you to do is to enter your thoughts. What are your takeaways? But I'd also love to hear that in the chat and any questions we can respond to.
Great. Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes before the end, so we'll have time for, depending on the depth of your questions here, in feedback. I'll start. I have one that was from earlier that we can start with, which is a simple question, I hope. These scenarios are excellent. Is there any way to get a copy of these exercises, Jen?
Great question. So Immersive who I work for, this is a platform that we use for for exercising and upskilling. So we have a catalog, a whole library of crisis simulation scenarios, and also the ability to build your own custom scenarios. If you are interested in learning more about that, please reach out. Happy to show you what is available to you. And then MxD, and we can work out what is available to you essentially. But yeah, there's a whole catalog of scenarios that are available.
Please go ahead and put questions in the chat. I'll ask one. What's something that surprises you that would also surprise us about the level of preparation or lack thereof among many clients you work with? What's something that would surprise all of us today?
I don't know if this will surprise you. It surprises me every time, but also I expect it every time now. No matter the maturity of an organization, I've done crisis simulations for companies that on paper everything is right. They always come out with some opportunity for improvement where an attacker would have found that. An attacker, I'm not talking about technically, I'm talking about communication, coordination in their response. This is a living, breathing activity. So you can have the best documentation, you can have the best people in place who know their role, and it still needs to be updated every time. You have people leaving, coming and going. You have new processes, new technology. So the thing that surprises me all the time is how much, myself included, how much there's still to learn, no matter what the crisis. And you can go through the same crisis scenario and still learn things.
That's good advice. Never done. Never done.
Never done.
Absolutely. Never done.
Any other questions?
So the lack of preparation. Yeah. Lack of preparation, tabletop exercise. Yeah.
Go
so
ahead.
There's a comment in the chat. The lack of preparation or tabletop exercises is a widespread issue. This must be driven by the C-level. So really championing this and championing that level of preparation must be driven by the C-level. Can you comment on what having championship from the top might do?
Yeah, so it really sets the tone for the security culture of the organization. And it's so important to have it come from the top. And if it doesn't, you can drive it from any part of the business, but it's so important to have that. I mean, the C-suite, and I'll even say the board of directors should go through their own exercising, because it can be very illuminating. And it really comes down to that security culture of being able to grow and adapt. If you have a fear-based security culture, that's a struggle. But if the C-suite, if the board of directors can drive exercising, those are the organizations that are going to thrive and survive in a crisis.
That's great. That's great.
Great question.
Any other questions? Last call for questions in the chat. If you've got one, please put it in. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today. I know I did. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you so much to Immersive and MxD. We'll be sharing out the recording as well as a brief write-up so that you can share some of this knowledge with others on your teams. And thank you again. We really appreciate you leading us through this today.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. All right, have a great day.